seeking help in all the wrong places. So far, we've studied in the Old Testament book of Hosea, we've learned that the Lord married Israel, and then the Lord rejected Israel. Why? Because Israel committed spiritual adultery. They worshiped other gods instead of the one true God. So God just left Israel? No. God drew Israel back again to himself. If we read through these passages here, we read all the way down, we might think that these verses are talking about the people of Israel, being individually saved, God redeeming them individually. And we might get a little confused as we read the verses. It sounds like that they're talking about that a person can be saved and then lose salvation, saved again, lose salvation, and on and on. Is that possible? No, it's not. Hosea was not primarily talking about individual redemption. He was not. Hosea was talking to the corporate people. The group of the people as a whole of Israel is who he was talking to. And yes, there is individual salvation, of course, but the Bible teaches about both individual redemption and corporate redemption. And Hosea was speaking primarily to the group of people who was the corporate people, and this was a mixture of non-believers and believers. It's the same today in the church as a whole. We see people there, and you say, are they all believers that belong in a church group? No, they're not all believers. We can't see inside a person's heart. We don't know who is the believer and who is not. God alone knows that. Also, the people under the old covenant, were all of them believers? No, they were not. All of them were physically circumcised as a group, but did they have circumcision of the heart? No, they did not all. And God married Israel as a group, a nation, not individually. And that can help us to understand God's illustration of marriage and divorce, and then marriage again. He married the group, not the individual of Israel. A few, of course, were saved, yes. And did they lose their salvation? No, of course not. Now, there were many in the group who were worshiping false gods. But the few who were faithful, the individuals, they were still part of that whole spiritual group. And they were still part of that body, and they remained faithful. But they did suffer as the whole group of Israel when God took them and exiled them into Assyria. God divorced from the whole group. And you understand that God never divorced from the remnant who were faithful to him. He never did that. God himself is the perfecter and the founder of the faith. That means that he gives the faith. He starts the faith, and later he would mature their faith. We also previously learned that during the time of Hosea, that the sitting kings who were reigning at the time of Hosea in Israel, that, well, this was a dangerous, dangerous place to be. A few of the kings who reigned for under 6 months were assassinated. If these kings had dealt with the real problem of Israel, and the real problem was idolatry, if they had dealt with this, the real problem, they would have lived longer. But the northern kingdom refused to trust in the one true God, Yahweh. They refused to, instead trusting in false gods. Ephraim was a main tribe in the northern kingdom of Israel, and they corrupted the land with idolatry. Israel's kings failed in the spiritual areas. They should have been trusting God, but they were seeking help from Assyria to keep them from the violence of their own land. Assyria couldn't help Israel anyway. The reason was because the Lord had already judged and already planned to go against Israel. He judged against them for worshiping false gods instead of worshiping Him, the one true God. The Lord was like a roaring lion and devoured against them. Let's apply this to our Christian life. God justifies us as individuals through our faith in Him alone. He saves us as individuals, our relationship with God alone, yes. But He will also judge whole denominations, not just local churches or the whole denominations. He will judge for false teaching. It doesn't matter what denomination that you belong to. It could be that you are a denomination of something like, let's say, Assembly of God, or Presbyterian, or Baptist, or Methodist, or Lutheran. It really doesn't matter. God will judge against false teaching, and we do not want to be in that judgment. There are local churches that are good. They are faithful. They teach truth. They live according to biblical teaching, to God's Word. And they try not to let sin spread through the church. They don't allow it. There's good churches. There are believers there who will face suffering, though, just as the whole denomination will, just as the nation of Israel did in Hosea's time. The individuals who are saved and they are faithful, they will suffer, as non-believers do, and as false teachers do. Corn deal.